I'd like to call the meeting to order. The clerk, please read the statement.
This is a meeting of the Township Council for Monday, May 8, 2017. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 5, 2017. It was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Roll call.
Councilmember Kadish.
Here.
Councilmember Ohm.
Here.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Here.
Councilmember Wetzel.
Here.
Council President Murphy.
Here. Will the members of the VFW and the Vietnam veterans please come forward to present the colors and rise to salute the flag?
Present arms. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order arms.
Please be seated. This evening we have presentations from the high school hackathon. Would Matt Shea please step forward?
I was told to speak into the microphone, so hopefully everyone can hear me. Thank you, Town Council, for having us. Thank you, parents, for showing up, students. Mayor Shortway, thank you for partnering with us through this endeavor. A hackathon, I want to take a moment just to explain that before we have the students jump up here. In case you've never heard of a hackathon, is many cities, San Francisco, Boston, Philly, New York, are starting to have these hackathons where they bring talented people together to solve community problems. So the Vernon Education Foundation and Tara Brennan said, hey, we've got some really talented students. Why don't we bring them together to solve some problems? And we've got a very diverse group that decided to take on Vernon's problems. So we have future business leaders of America, an engineering team, a tech team, a graphic arts team, students with very diverse skills that came together. And Harry didn't take it easy on them. He presented these packets that were about 50 pages thick for each student to review the different problems of Vernon Township, and asked the children it was March 31st, starting at 9 p.m. They went until 9 a.m. Many of them didn't sleep. They worked the night through to try to come up with their solutions. So the solutions you're going to see, they did only on that night. They didn't keep polishing them. I said, no, let's have everyone see the solutions you came up with in 12 hours. To present. So they're going to take 10 minutes to show their solution and do any questions and answers. And we'll see how much they've studied and how well they know the problems and can answer some of your questions. But if the council members have questions, please fire away. Mayor Shortway, did you want to add anything?
No, it was just an honor to be there, and it was so delightful just to work with all these students and stuff. And I think I got more out of it than you guys did, so thank you. I really appreciate it.
Great. So first team is Team Inferior, and they will introduce themselves. Guys, come on up.
Do you want the lights off?
I think we'll be fine if you guys can see it. All right. Hello. We're Team Inferior. That's the name we competed under during the hackathon. I'm Daniel McKeon, and I took the role of the leader of our team during the competition. With me are Andrew Week and Shane Brennan. Also to mention, our teammates David Rusnak and Matt Tino couldn't make it tonight, though we definitely appreciate them helping us on the night. Technology.
Tech team should go first.
I don't like this stuff.
Sorry. There we go. Essentially, we were assigned with the task of redevelopment in Vernon, and first we wanted to go about defining what redevelopment was and the steps that we'd have to take in order to achieve this. We began with discussing it and defining the term redevelopment itself, which we determined to be essentially rehabilitating and redesigning a region, or a particular region. And then we decided to create, which was essentially to create a plan for the redevelopment. And further, we decided to negotiate and compromise on a feasible solution between us to decide, and then use the details that we gathered through research to discuss financial and different compromises we could make in the plan in order to achieve what we consider to be our best solution to the problem. Then we presented, and essentially these steps are yet to be achieved, but we decided that the other two steps for redevelopment were to mobilize the operation itself, if it was to be selected, and then to finalize everything, and possibly review after mobilizing it and seeing it in work. One of the most important components of our plan for this was a town center, or was basically to define and create and establish a town center. And then this was, the goal of this was to centralize all of our resources and allocate all of our funds into one general area in order to have see most immediate effects of what we were doing. And this would allow us to do several things and then notice if they work in one place before investing in other places. Further, we decided, or in the graphic on the left, we have outlined what we believe to be the town center, which is much of the area around here, further down the road, including the area around Acme, Main Street, and that general area. And then also, we decided, around the graphic on the right, as we'll discuss later, one of our proposed solutions for improving water infrastructure would include a water tower, so we quickly created an image to show what that would look like if we were to place it near the Gulf Station in town. And as previously mentioned, we took on the task of renovating and improving the sewage and water piping currently existing in Vernon by implementing several things mentioned in the packet that were provided, such as hydraulic modeling, Port Royale high-pressure loop piping to improve water transmission, and many other things such as upgrading and creating new wells and tanks in order to achieve a high-capacity water system that is more up-to-date and up to standards than our current system. And this would then also require upgrading electrical systems to manage that. Also, we decided to construct a water tower, and this water tower was going to be quite a pricey endeavor, coming up to 1.25 million gallon water tower costing approximately $5 million. And then this number was taken from a similar water tower constructed in another town in Kansas, I believe, where they did the similar project. And yeah, this price covers all of our construction, planning, design, and upgrading the pipe infrastructure that we mentioned before. Here's an animation that we created for the water tower to show how it functions.
This basically shows how any new wells that we would create would interact with the water tower at like new, more up-to-date, in a more efficient system.
And that's essentially the animation. As mentioned before, this would be about a $5 million endeavor, and we projected a maximum cost would be $7.5 million approximately, depending on what options we took, what materials we built it out of, and another large decision would be like connecting the Great Gorge pumps through the main water system, as mentioned in the packet that was provided, with either a 4,700-foot or 2,400-foot pipe network. And we determined that the most efficient way we would do it would be using the 2,400-foot system, as it would reduce the cost by approximately $1 million. However, if necessary, the 4,700-foot system definitely could be used, and that's where the maximum cost of $7.6 million came from. Essentially, we also decided that there was many economic benefits to improving pipe infrastructure. As one, it would essentially future-proof the town, as our current pipes are rusty and failing in certain areas or poor quality, and then this would therefore allow us to maintain good quality piping and high capacity for water for quite some time, allowing us to have a high threshold for demand and maintain this through population growth or more demand in water over time. And this would allow us also to improve revenue, as it would attract more people to move to Vernon.
And to add, one of the major themes that we saw in researching with what we had to do was to try and bring new people to Vernon to experience what kind of community we had. And we know many people would view like a water tower as an eyesore, but in many communities all over the country, that grows with the community, and people see that as a landmark for that community, and people would eventually recognize Vernon for that water tower and would be able to say that that is a big part of their town. Continuing with transportation and recreation, we would encourage the use of Mountain Creek facilities, because we believe that Mountain Creek is one of Vernon's biggest tourist attractions already, and we would help further the increase in tourists in Vernon by using what we already have. So this would involve a series of bus stops, and each bus stop will cost an approximate $150,000 to create, and $100,000 of that money will be in construction, and approximately $50,000 will be allocated for inspections and maintenance and certification for those bus stops to make sure that everything's safe, because we wouldn't want any danger issues regarding that. And then there would be an inclusion of 2 bus stops, while the other 3 stops are made in parking lots of commercial establishments, which would total out to be $300,000. The one major bus stop will be at we had originally proposed that we have a parking lot at Canal Road for the parking issue with the Appalachian Trail, so that was where we proposed our first parking lot to be, and our bus stop. And then our second bus stop would be located in the town center, which is being built up adjacent to Main Street near the CVS. Business incentives, so people who would stay or use Mountain Creek facilities would be able to jump on the shuttle service and utilize the new transportation services in Vernon for taking a chance with our tourist attractions in Vernon. And then these buses would come out for each bus $5,000 for a large used one, which would be the main vehicle for transportation, and then a smaller bus, which will be used at on demand, if there's a high demand for the transportation, which will cost around $3,500, and those would only be the start, just to see if the system really works or not, as we could obviously build off that. Costs, so to maintain the trail parking, a $15 non-Vernon, any non-Vernon residents would have to pay $15 to use it, and then any Vernon residents would have to pay $10, and then after they pay for the parking, the shuttle service becomes free. The large bus will make around 8 trips, and the short bus will make around 15 trips. So this revenue, it totals to $47 in diesel gas per day for the bus. So after adding the 2 drivers, we must pay $13 an hour each. These expenses would add up to a total cost of $203 per day. And we see that with a small fee for the buses, that this would cover itself. So we would really be losing no money in having to pay bus drivers or having to pay for the cost of the buses. And then eventually we would try to establish this system where it runs by itself, where we don't need people to pay for it, and we don't need, we are still paying for the buses and the drivers, so that it becomes just an amenity for the people that live in Vernon. And then for our proposed parking lot, the clearing cost would be around $1,500. Here's an animation of what the proposed parking lot would be. It's not to scale, but it just shows what the surrounding environment would be and how it would be adjacent to 2 roads.
Okay.
Sidewalks would also be a major part of establishing a better community in Vernon, and $485,730 per mile. So for 0.65 miles, the length of the commercial area that needs sidewalks in Vernon, it would come out to approximately $315,724.50. And then we would incorporate the cost of the sidewalks with the piping that goes along the main street on Route 515 and Route 94. So essentially, the new water management systems that we propose, since that would obviously involve lots of construction, we would run our sidewalks over those sewer pipes so that we'd be taking out the cost for the construction of those pipes and the sidewalks in one doing instead of paying for each separately. So another major thing of any renovations that we would do or any improvements that we would make would be meeting BPU and DEP requirements and of the state. And so the Board of Public Utilities and the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, they provide legislative guidelines and regulations concerning the water management systems the townships have in effect. So realistically, whatever we would do for Vernon would have to meet with their standards, and everything that we have proposed meets with those standards. And then additionally, we would also utilize the municipal bond market, the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust, the NJEIT, to partially fund these increases in infrastructure for Vernon. Commercial property and cost projections. So the proposed shuttle bus system would facilitate affordable transportation throughout the commercial centers of the town, therefore siphoning tourists and portions of the local population to restaurants and major other areas in Vernon. The overall cost of developing these projects would be approximately $7,915,724.50 for the water-related construction and $320,350 for the construction of the busing and shuttle systems. And then the $46 million US dollar debt possessed by the town currently would remain untouched with the use of the NJEIT funding, as a mean amount of approximately $9 million is provided to each project funded, which would cover our cost budget. So evaluation and control of projected redevelopment. So in any proposed plan, you can't just set it into motion and then let it go. You would have to keep it in check to make sure that it's not actually causing any harm to the town or bringing any money further away from the town. So in order to evaluate the plan and control the implemented plan, we would use a system in which on a monthly basis we identify the money that has been lost or gained in the time that has passed, starting from whatever we put into it. So if there was an increase in overall debt, there would be a reevaluation of the plan, and we would figure out how it caused us to lose money, and then vice versa. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to ask any questions of Team 1 here?
Can you put the light on, please?
Yeah, come back up for a second. Put you on the hot spot.
Thanks, man.
Any of the council members have any questions?
I'd like to say thank you for coming to the council and for that demonstration and working on one of our problems. Does any of you want to now be a city planner after this experience?
Possibly, we'll see.
Good, nice. Think about it. But thank you so much.
Yep,
and
thank
thanks to the teacher.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
You have any question?
Yeah. Dr. McKay and I go way back, many, many years. He is probably one of the most creative individuals I've ever met. He was the head of the English department. I was the head of the history department. And he had some fantastic ideas, as can be seen with tonight's presentation. Youth is not wasted on youth. and you guys did a fantastic job, and I'm very proud to say that I was a teacher in the Vernon system for 35 years, and thank you very much for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I did have the pleasure of attending that morning when you did present with the mayor, and you look a little more alert right now. But thank you.
Some of them got to sleep that night. Some. So then the other team we have is Team Four Seasons, and they were the winners of the event as voted on by our mayor and the council president. So Team Four Seasons, come on up and show your proposal.
We have this trifold here. Unfortunately, I can't show it in two directions at once. So I'm going to set it up about here for now, but I promise I'll turn around so you guys can see it eventually.
We just want to say thank you all for coming today, everyone, to listen to our presentation. Sam and I are going to be speaking. My name is Josie.
Maybe they could put the trifold by the reporter on the table. Just if it works.
I'm Josie Stolzenberg.
I'm Sam Walthoff.
Maybe
Thank you.
the other reporter. Hey,
I'm Hannah Van Borkum.
I'm Juliana Schlichtings, and that's Brian Hill.
Yeah.
Do you want me to say what's in the folder?
Yeah,
It's
so
probably gonna be.
we handed out folders to you, and Juliana is going to tell you what's in them.
Okay, well, just in the folder, the big written piece is what we wrote throughout the night that just summarizes every part of our plan in more detail than we're probably going to say. And for the maps, I know, okay, so A is what we wrote in marker is a view of one of our plumbing plans for the water system, and then B is a closer look at our town center with the plumbing systems we're proposing, and C is just a copy of some of the math we did for the calculations of the cost.
So this is our Four Seasons plan. We originally came up with a 3-point plan or a 3-step plan. We knew that this wasn't going to be solved just with one new creation that we came up with. We knew that there were going to be different problems that we had to fix altogether. And the basis of them are a new water and sewage plan, a connection and greenway plan, and a small business initiative plan.
So to start off with, we have our budget plan, because obviously one of the most important ways or necessary requirements to fix the town is money. That's obviously a huge issue. Nothing is free in this world, and if we want to be able to successfully change anything, we need the funds to do it successfully. The first part of our budget plan is a state project-based or categorical grant from either an independent organization or the state of New Jersey as a whole. The other group also mentioned the NJEIT fund. We would, obviously, that would be our first application, but if the off chance that we didn't successfully get that, if we weren't granted any of these grants, we would have backup plans. One of those is deals with businesses in exchange for funding tax incentives. This mainly consists of us trying to build up the main town center, and in order to do that, we need small businesses to come in. We don't want big corporations to turn into a strip mall. We want small businesses to keep the rustic feel of Vernon. And one way we would do that is say to the small businesses, hey, if you're willing to come here, we'll help subsidize building your buildings, because that's a very difficult problem for small businesses. And we'll also give you large tax breaks if for the first 5 or 8 years, as long as you're willing to establish yourselves here and create a town center. And finally, we have land leasing and generic fundraising. Land leasing is also a large portion of how we would be making our money. The small businesses that would be receiving their tax breaks would in turn spend money on the land that they would be buying or renting or borrowing, however you want to say it, from the town in order to establish their locations.
Our first year water and sewage plan, we knew that this was probably going to be our biggest problem to fix throughout all of Vernon. So we came up with building a water tank behind the residents of Nimbus Road. And this is for the reason that there is a well on Nimitz Road, and we figured let's utilize that well already. A water tank is very similar, a water tank is very similar to a water tower, except it's on the ground, so you don't really see it. The location that we have, it's in like, it's in the woods, really, so it's going to be covered by trees. It's not an eyesore to Vernon, and it is very, very less expensive than a water tower would be, which is very beneficial to us. And again, we're going to use government-based grants and prioritize fundings by making deals with businesses. And in order for them to use this water tank, they'd have to pay for, they'd have to pay for a one-time hookup fee and a water bill.
Each of our plans, as you'll see, are split into 3 steps. This is our 3-year plan of the water and sewage plan. Tax incentives at this point have obviously prompted businesses to come. There will be multiple businesses set up in this area using this water system. The water lines can be run to the edge of populated areas, meaning we won't need to disrupt any housing or any current roads. The building would be out of the way, and it would not interfere with any current Vernon activities. And sewage lines would be added only in necessary areas, because we realized a lot of areas didn't exactly need direct sewage line access as long as they could access it from afar. And we would save a substantial amount of money by not having to build an entire sewage system, only a branched sewage system that could be tied into for any individual building.
Our long-term water and sewage plan allows us to expand the water supply and the sewage lines. So, as mentioned before, the water lines and the sewage lines that we put in place, they're not reaching everywhere yet. But as people come to Vernon and the town center becomes more populated, then we can branch out the water lines and the sewage lines as needed. Let's not pay for that right away if we don't need to. And we're going to, again, gain profit from these hookup fees from these businesses and the monthly water fees that we'll be receiving.
The next plan we're going to talk about is our Connection and Greenway plan. This is a combination of the Greenway plan, which is trying to keep the green, farmland, rustic charm that Vernon already has, and connect that with the Connection plan, which the goal of that is to make the whole spread out area of Vernon more easily accessible to those of us both living here without vehicles, without access to vehicles, who just don't want to drive, and those attending from outside. The beginning of this in the first year would be a small sidewalk and bike lane system in the town center. For these purposes, we consider the town center the area around the Acme and the CVS. That whole area would have sidewalks and bike lanes, which would allow people to walk there, bike there, or park a car and walk around the area without needing to worry about the danger of not having sidewalks on such busy roads. Next, we have a bus system connecting a majority of popular attractions, including the Appalachian Trail and Mountain Creek, as well as the town center. These are sold, you can buy tickets to these, sold on day passes and one-use passes, and they would be offered at an extreme price reduction to current in-Vernon residents, so as to not turn off the local residents to these plans. Public parking areas, in conjunction with the busing system, would be required. We would establish a central hub. Our original plans were for some of the grassland behind Smokies to work perfectly as this, where people would come in and park their vehicles, get on these buses, and these buses would run to the Appalachian Trailhead, to the town center, and to Mountain Creek. And this public parking would be free, and you would just pay for the bus. This also solves a major problem that we were noticing in the packets. A huge problem that Vernon is dealing with right now is the parking around the Appalachian Trailhead. There's almost none of it, and a lot of people like to go there, especially in the summer and spring seasons. Having buses connecting that area to a much larger public parking area would allow much, much easier access for both through hikers and in-town day tourists.
For the 3 years Connection and Greenway plan, we're planning for the bus system at this point has paid for itself, right? All the money that we spent on it has been made up at this point, and we can expand the sidewalks to necessary areas. Something that I noticed last week during the Spartan race was that all these people were walking all around Vernon, and that's not always the best area to walk around there. If we had sidewalks, that would be so much safer for them and completely more convenient. So we want to expand these sidewalks as more businesses come and as more people are populating Vernon. We want to make it easier for them to travel throughout Vernon.
And finally, our long-term portion of the Connection Greenway plan. One of the main things we would like to do in the long term, it's expensive so we wouldn't have it as a first goal, is implementation of solar cells and possibly even wind turbines in the areas around further in the backfields near Smokies and as well as in the areas of Maple Grange if possible. These would enable the town to cut their energy costs as they'd be getting a substantial amount of it free from nature, and even make profit as both private homes and companies would be paying hookups to these places for cheaper power. The bus transportation system at this point is expanded throughout all attractions and pays for itself as well as the maintenance of the buses and the parking lots. And businesses at this point will be able to apply for specific areas in town to have designated bus stops. For example, an area on Main Street, say 3 or 4 of the businesses say, hey, it would be great if we were connected to this bus route. Mountain Creek and CVS and Acme are making all kinds of money from all this extra foot traffic. So they would get together and pay for a bus stop to be built and maintained in that area for the trade-off of them receiving a substantial increased foot traffic and thus business and profit. And we successfully managed to connect all of Vernon with these buses, public parking, sidewalks, bicycle lanes, and we've done it without losing any major charm that Vernon has. We haven't built anything near the Appalachian Trail. We haven't built ugly parking garages here and there. We've made all of the town accessible, but still Vernon is a rural, rustic, charmful place.
The first year for the Small Business Initiative is going to encourage small businesses to establish themselves throughout Vernon. We want to do this primarily in the town center, but in order to do this, we are going to need some large businesses to begin developing there. We don't really want to attract a lot of them because, again, we want to keep Vernon the rustic charm that it is. We don't want it to turn into some crazy city. You know, we want to keep it how it is. That's why people want to come here. They want to see what Vernon is.
Our 3-year portion of the Small Business Initiative is, at this point, the small businesses have acquired attention from the tourists, and we're beginning to sell the concept of memory creation businesses. This is where, in touristy areas, people from outside of Vernon would go to Vernon once, go to one of these small little rustic stores, and remember it from that point on. Everyone deep down has at least a few of these businesses. For example, there's a specific taffy shop down on the Jersey Shore that my family goes to every summer because it's amazing. It's this tiny small business, but we love it, and it gets so much foot traffic because they know people love it. They know people come back every year when they go down to the Jersey Shore and buy all their products. Now, we've also successfully established Vernon's town center area as multiple small businesses have at this point established themselves on the Main Street area and also in the areas of Omega and Theta Drive, allowing the area itself to be more productive, to produce more income. The more businesses are there, the more foot traffic will arrive, and thus the more other businesses will be profiting off of it. And finally, we've increased revenue from tourism, which is used to help subsidize the construction of new buildings for small businesses. I mentioned before, one of the biggest obstacles to a small business is their building. You can't have a small business in a little tent on the side of the road. You need a building. But buildings are really expensive. And for a small business that hasn't yet started making money, they can't afford these buildings. So if we were able to use some of the profits from the other areas, we could subsidize building these buildings as they would pay them back eventually in full, but it would allow more and more small businesses to establish themselves in that area without too much increase in the cost.
The long-term goal of this business plan is to make Vernon a 4 seasons attraction. That's the whole goal of all of this. We want people to come here and realize how beautiful Vernon is and realize how diverse it really is too. But we don't want them to see a city that we've created. We want them to see the rustic and rural charm of Vernon. the small farms and the small businesses, the Appalachian Trail. We want them to see that. But in doing so, we also want to bring continual revenue, which is what the long term will do for this.
Just as a final point, these are our total costs and possible revenues that we would be receiving from all these products. The water system is obviously the most expensive, totaling around up to $1 million. Max estimates about $1.3 million. In this area, we were able to keep a substantial amount of our costs down by choosing a water tank instead of a tower. And this tank would be constructed at the top of a well, at the top of a hill, where we could lay pipes from that area and use the force of gravity, which is always free and always there, to pump the water instead of actual pumps. Thus, we're not needing to build an entire expensive water tower, which is an eyesore. It's expensive to build, and it's very expensive to maintain. This water tank would be much cheaper. An average water tower costs about $1 per cubic gallon of water. The water tanks that we would be constructing cost only about 23 cents per gallon of water, so we'd be saving more than 75% of that cost. The connection greenway system obviously has a base cost, but the bus system in less than 4 or 5 years would have covered that cost and be producing its own money. And our total project cost rests right now around $1.4 million, and our maximum projections are about $1.8 million. That is all we have. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions? At this point, I'm going to lower this down. Sorry if it was blocking your view. We just really needed to put it somewhere.
I think you guys did an excellent job, regardless of which group was deemed the winner. I can understand why Mr. Wetzel is so proud of being involved with the system. Let it be known that I was there also for many years. Where did you get some of your costs?
A lot of our costs for both the greenway system and the water system were from other townships and counties around the country that had similar environments to Vernon and had already done these same policies. For example, our water tower tank was most of our projected costs were acquired from another town in the Midwest. I can't remember the state or the town name, but they had done the same project and it cost them about that much money.
Yeah. Your economics is fantastic. There's only one thing that you left out. As Dr. McKay and I have talked about this for years, the railroad. If the town gets the railroad, the town will boom.
That is definitely true.
The problem is the rails are owned by two private individuals. Each individual owns one of the rail lines, and they right now are just interested in the freight, and they're not interested in passengers. But if the rails come through with passengers, you're talking about a bonanza, and everything that you're saying will come true.
That is absolutely true. We had thought about mentioning that, but we didn't want to put it directly into the presentation because of the so many uncertainties dealing with private individuals.
I think the town is well served by all of you, and I think you speak well of the youth of this community. Too frequently we hear about the problems with our youth. You young ladies and men show what happens when good minds are given a task and allowed to work together and come to a solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Are you
Yes.
Brad's son?
I have a comment.
What?
Brad Hill's son? Which one is Brad Hill's son?
That one.
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you very much for your presentation. What kind of store do you think would make memories? You pointed out a store that stands out. What do you think would work in this environment?
There is the Candy Apple Shop. There was talk of hopefully convincing the Candy Apple Shop to either move or create a second location in that area, because we know that's a very memorable Vernon area. Also, there was the possibility of rustic-themed, possibly a tourist shop if we got that much tourist traffic.
I mean, and a lot of the small farms really help too, because some of them have like the pumpkin patches that you go, like, we already have a lot of the things, but we just want to make sure like that stays, of course, because that's like the feel we love about the town, with all the farms and all the opportunities to go outside and like do things.
Yeah, another great example of one or two of the small businesses we would be hoping would be opening in that area to create these memories would be a farm-to-table, very rustic, very Farmville type of restaurant that would definitely stand out in the minds of tourists, especially if they're coming from more urbanized areas and say, wow, I've never seen a living cow before.
Yeah, through experience working at like Mountain Creek, a lot of the tourists that come in are like straight from like cities and places like that. Because I, of course, like working there, you like talk to them a lot. So that's one of the reasons why it's also great. Other than the fact that we like that feel, a lot of people also might find it like different from a lot of places they go.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Did a great job.
Very
Thank
good.
you,
Any
both
Great
groups.
job. Great job.
Thank you very much.
So my final thought, I just wanted to thank the township, thank Mayor Shortway again for partnering with us. So we paid these students in Mountain Dew and Doritos. There were 31 students that gave you about 372 hours of labor overnight. And these are the ideas they came up with. Some of it might echo some thoughts you already had. Some of it might have been, just an interesting take. But, our students are awesome, and they can do amazing things. And so we'd love to partner with the township more and try to help solve some of these real-world problems. So Thank you, township. Thank you, Mayor.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
There
Thank
should
you.
be more nights like this. There should be more involvement.
That's great. Take a
That was good. I enjoyed it. Very, very good.
Great job, man. What education should be.
Right, thank you. Next, we have a few proclamations. The first one we have is for Police Week. I see Chief Mills is here. Mayor Shortway, would you please read that proclamation?
Police Week 2017. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated the week of Monday, May 15, 2017 through Sunday, May 21, 2017 as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the Township of Vernon Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the Township of Vernon. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that the members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Vernon Township Police Department unceasingly provide a vital service. Now, therefore, Council President Gene Murphy and I, Mayor Shortway, and the Vernon Township Council do hereby proclaim that the week of May 15th, 2017 through May 21st, 2017 is designated as Police Week in the Township of Vernon, and call upon all citizens and patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe this week with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our community may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to the responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to the communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an inevitable, enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. Given under my hand in these free United States in the Township of Vernon, State of New Jersey, on this 8th day of May, 2017, and to which I have caused the seal of the Township of Vernon to be affixed and have made this proclamation public.
Would you like to give this to you?
Sure. I don't know if you know or not, my grandfather, who served in World War II in the Marine Corps in Okinawa, he didn't receive a scratch. However, he became a police officer in Hawthorne, New Jersey, and he was killed on the job in Hawthorne. I never knew him. My mother was only 8 years old, and he left 3 other children with him. So it was a great job when I did and served, and it was an honor to serve, but the dangers are out there. And Chief, I really appreciate everything you and your police department do for us. Here's a copy of the proclamation. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
I would just like to thank the mayor, council president, and council, I've been a police officer here coming up on 27 years, and no matter what form of government, who's in charge, we've always had the support of our mayor and town council, and that's important for us to do what we need to do, especially today. So thank you again.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
sir.
Next, we have the Older Americans Month. Will Councilmember Rizzuto please read the proclamation?
Thank you. Whereas Vernon Township is committed to valuing all individuals and recognizing their ongoing life's achievements, and whereas older adults in Vernon Township play an important role by continuing to contribute experience, knowledge, wisdom, and accomplishments, and whereas older adults are active community members involved in volunteering, mentorships, arts, culture, and civic engagement, and whereas our community can provide opportunities to allow older citizens to continue to flourish by emphasizing the importance of elders and their leadership, by presenting opportunities for older Americans to share their wisdom, experience, and skills, and recognizing older adults as a valuable asset in strengthening American communities. Now, therefore, Council President Gene Murphy, Mayor Shortway, and the Vernon Township Council do hereby proclaim May 2017 to be Older Americans Month in Vernon Township. We urge every citizen to take the time this month to recognize older adults and the people who serve and support them as powerful and vital citizens who greatly contribute to the community. Given under my hand in these free United States in the Township of Vernon on this 8th day of May 2017, and to which I have caused the seal of the Township of Vernon to be affixed and have made this proclamation public. Harry J. Shortway, Mayor. Gene Murphy, Council President.
Thank you. Next, we have the Buddy Poppy Month. Will the members of the VFW please come forward? Buddy Poppy Month, May 2017. Whereas the annual distribution of Buddy Poppies by the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States has been officially recognized and endorsed by governmental leaders since 1922. And whereas Buddy Poppies are assembled by disabled veterans and the proceeds of this worthy fundraising campaign are used exclusively for the benefit of disabled and needy veterans and the widows and orphans of deceased veterans. And whereas the purpose of the sale of Buddy Poppies by the Veterans of Foreign Wars is eloquently reflected in the desire to honor the dead by helping the living. The 2017 Buddy Poppy Drive is being held during the month of May, and whereas the Wallkill Valley VFW 8441 and its Ladies Auxiliary promote the sale of the Buddy Poppy throughout the township, and whereas we urge all patriotic citizens to wear a Buddy Poppy as a symbol of gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedoms which we continue to enjoy as American citizens. Now, therefore, I, Council President Gene Murphy, Mayor Shortway, and the Vernon Township Council do hereby proclaim that May 2017 is Buddy Poppy Month in Vernon Township. We hereby urge the citizens of this community to recognize the merits of this cause by contributing generously to this invaluable program, given under my hand in these free United States in the Township of Vernon, State of New Jersey, on this 8th day of May 2017, and to which I have caused the seal of the Township of Vernon to be affixed and have made this proclamation public. Harry J. Shortway, Mayor. Gene Murphy, Council President.
All right, thank you. Thank you all.
And our next proclamation is for Memorial Day. Now will the members of the VFW and Vietnam veterans please come forward?
You want me to stand up there and read it?
You can leave the one.
Memorial Day 2017. Whereas Memorial Day, originally called Decoration Day, is a day of remembrance for those who have died in service of the United States of America. And whereas, while it's difficult to prove conclusively the origins of Memorial Day, President Lyndon Johnson in May 1966 proclaimed that Waterloo, New York was officially the birthplace of Memorial Day. And whereas, regardless of the exact date or location of its origins, one thing is clear. Memorial Day was born out of the Civil War and a desire to honor our dead. It was officially proclaimed on May 5, 1868, by General John Logan, National Commander of the Grand Army of the Republic, in his General Order Number 11. The 30th of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet, churchyard in the land. He proclaimed, and whereas, on the first Decoration Day at Arlington National Cemetery, 5,000 participants decorated the graves of the 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers buried there. And whereas, after World War I, the holiday changed from honoring just those who died fighting in the Civil War to honoring Americans who died fighting in any war. And whereas, it is now observed in almost every state on the last Monday in May with congressional passage of the National Holiday Act of 1971. Now and therefore, Council President Gene Murphy, Mayor Shortway, and the Vernon Township Council do hereby honor our servicemen and women from every branch of the service who have served in all the nation's wars for their enduring dedication to the preservation of America and our way of life. Thank you. Given under my hand in these free United States in the Township of Vernon, State of New Jersey, on this 8th day of May, 2017, and to which I have caused the seal of the Township of Vernon to be affixed and have made this proclamation public. Harry J. Shortway, Mayor, Gene Murphy, Council President.
Any more for us?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have public comment. May I have a motion to open the floor to public comments?
Motion?
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the council? Please.
Good evening, Jesse Palladini, Highland Lakes, Sunset Ridge. I'm here tonight for one reason and one reason only, and that is to support the residents that live in the Appalachian Trail neighborhoods. And when you close the meeting to the public, I'll be getting back to work. I first want to say that... I'm sorry, did somebody say something? Okay. I first want to say that I requested that a copy of tonight's ordinance be placed on the table so that these residents know what it says. And I'm very disappointed that that was rejected. Please don't use the justification of the law saying that you only have to publish the ordinance on second reading, because there's nothing that says that you can't be transparent and give a copy of it to the public and to the residents. There's absolutely no reason why you could not have provided that. Yes, they can comment on it in 2 weeks, but why the secret? Why can't they know what you're taking action on tonight? So I just want to say that on their behalf. I was very disappointed that the council and the mayor would not make that ordinance available to them. You're supposed to conduct government in the public, and denying the public an ordinance is just not good government. Anyway, I just want to say that I'm here to support this ordinance tonight, and I hope that you will all support it. The Historical Society is probably the second organization, business in all of Vernon to promote tourism, second only to Mountain Creek and Heaven Hill Farm. Yes, we support tourism. We're doing everything we can to increase agri-ecotourism and heritage tourism in our town, and I don't think anything is going to do that better than our scenic byway. And by the way, we'll be meeting with our consultant on June 8th to start the process of that management plan, but not at the expense of the quality of life for our residents. I've been over there a few times on weekends. I have friends who live there, and for me, it's just unbearable what they live with. They have totally lost the quality of life in their neighborhood, and I want to commend Chief Mills for coming up with this plan, with this ordinance to give these residents relief, and I just hope you will all support it on their behalf. It's a great first step. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to come forward?
My name is Danielle Longo. I've lived in Great Gorge Village in Vernon for about 14 years, except for maybe about 195 days in 2013 when I thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail. So I'm here as both a taxpayer and resident of Vernon and a member of the Appalachian Trail community, a thru-hiker. And every Saturday and Sunday on the Appalachian Trail in all 14 states, you're an ambassador of the Appalachian Trail. I was also lucky enough to be an ambassador for our town the year I thru-hiked. And when I walked into my hometown, I stayed for about a week, and I was able to host a member of my tramily, which is a trail language for trail family, and then enable them to use Vernon businesses. And I've been able to do that in future years. So I know that the Appalachian Trail community isn't enough of a business in and of itself to sustain Vernon in terms of some of these tourism, but it is kind of an easy avenue, if you will, through word of mouth, through some of the trail resources to get business here. But I agree with what Jesse has said in that residents have to come first. One of the things that has surprised me in the proclamations that I've seen thus far is there hasn't been any advertisement of Canal Road or Route 94 as alternatives to the boardwalk. So I'm not sure we're using all the resources. I know I've heard that historically Appalachian Trail community suggested something else, and with the additional funding avenues available through the internet these days, I'm wondering why we don't partner with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy again to look into some of those avenues for funding a long-term solution that respects the private citizens along the Appalachian Trail, which are part of the community, as well as acknowledging some of the revenue and tourist and memory benefits that come from that. I will tell you in a couple days I'm heading south to go back to some of the trail towns down south where I created memories while I was walking through, and I want to revisit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to step up?
Good evening. Jamie Rickey from Vernon. It's speak to a couple things. I'll start with the kids' presentation. I guess I may have missed one. I don't know how many teams there were. I saw most of two. And, you know, it warms my heart to see them here presenting their ideas. Some of you may remember that during my campaign for mayor, I had proposed a youth council, you know, to as a mock council to the council that would meet maybe once a month, and they would have a liaison and present their findings to this council. And maybe some of you might want to consider investigating that. We certainly, obviously, have some youth that jumped up to the plate to engage, and in a short period of time came up with some great solutions. I love the gravity water system. We had a gravity water system on the farm. Our artesian spring was 2/3 of the way up the mountain, or no, about 1/3 of the way up the mountain. 200 feet of elevation change gave us 100 pounds of pressure at our barn. Gravity, no pump. So that was great to see them pick up on something, you know, simple and old school that really works. And, you know, whether that can be applied here, you know, we certainly have topography to work with. So certainly something to look into, because it does work and it is simple. I certainly believe in, you know, the need for some type of bus shuttle system, either now or, you know, in the near future. Vernon kind of signed its future to recreation and, you know, later eco-agritourism as a way to preserve our environment here and still thrive economically. The locations, and, you know, you might say I'm biased because of my location, but I think there's certainly real reasons to support what I'm going to say, is that a main hub or main parking lot would most likely be best located at the base of the Appalachian Trail, at the base of the stairway. There's roughly about 10 acres up there that's flat, that basically has almost zero runoff now, that could exist as a gravel parking lot and would accommodate our current needs plus the future. I do feel that you'll probably still need to locate some type of parking facility near the 517 area, but it wouldn't need to be near as big and could be serviced by the shuttle. I think that going to the Canal Road area would be a big mistake because of the type of roads that are, you know, serviced to get to that area, and then you'd be putting traffic into secondary roads and residential areas, whereas you could keep it on Route 94. Another main reason for that is something that, you know, I think we've grown to a point, especially with the scenic byway and the greenway plans, for a welcome center. We've talked about it in various different ways, but I think it'd be most effective as a state welcome center. My vision would be a non-governmental tourism council. Certainly the businesses would become involved in that on some type of sliding scale membership fee, because they have, you know, basically have the main gain. But a tourism council that could operate outside of, you know, the boundaries of state line and, you know, government. I think those are my only comments for now, except that, and whatever your short-term solution is, you really have to, you know, in my opinion, certainly look out for the best interests of those residents of Vernon Valley Lake for the short term, while certainly making a choice that's going to stand up to the legal challenges. Thank you.
Question, Mr. Ricky.
Sure.
You use your property for many uses. You have
I have.
revivals there. You have hunting property for the hunting groups. You lease it out for farming, for the farmers. Has anyone approached you, or have you approached anybody about utilizing some of your property for parking spaces?
There have been a couple casual requests. The mayor and I met a while ago, but none of those conversations have went further than, you know, like casual request or thought. I'm actually also working with a nonprofit. I'm at a loss for their actual name right now, but I know they reached out to your office today and left a message. They're a nonprofit. Their main goal is for regenerating communities. So a group that I've been working with recently that I'm very, very comfortable and very proud to work with. So I'm open to suggestions and, solutions that work for everyone.
So if push came to shove, you would sit down and negotiate?
Yeah, I think that, yes, and I think I've got some vision to, I think with the scenic byway, as a new feature for Vernon, the timing is right. And then the other thing that was mentioned was rails. Now, if anyone's paying attention, Andover is moving forward, right?
With the train.
Right. So we're like that next step, in that Vernon-Warwick is what's always been mentioned. There was one more point. The Appalachian Trail is a national park, first of all. I think we need to put the responsibility on the state and the federal government to solve this solution. Certainly, we want to help guide them, but I think, costs are certainly their responsibility. I think we have to put them on the spot.
You're right.
And the 10 acres I'm talking about is a combination of state and federal land.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public?
Kelly Rinker, Vernon. First, I want to say I agree with Jesse Palladini. I've been asking for the full text of introduction ordinances, especially in including the introduction of the budget. And also, it was really delightful to see how bright these students are in our town. And I couldn't help but think, sitting here, how do we keep them here when they graduate and have families and need to buy their first home, right? I hope they stay. Yeah. I come to these meetings to be informed because I care about the town I live in. I belong to a group of many who want to see Vernon prosper, so our investments do well, our quality of life remains high, and see Vernon be a town that is desirable for the young, the retired, and businesses. I can talk about many issues tonight, actions and behaviors of this administration, that quite frankly are just plain frightening to me. You cannot be successful operating with spite and ulterior motives. How can you say you are business friendly when you insult the largest taxpayers of this town? The mayor calls some slumlord millionaires. The council president accuses others of going bankrupt repeatedly and on the record. Do you think a public call for members for an economic development committee will make you look business friendly? I had to quit my position on the Greenway Committee because all of the hours of devotion I gave to the mission of the trail system were negated by interference, incompetence, and disrespect. My resignation stated if those behaviors continue, nothing would be accomplished. I've sat here and listened, meeting after meeting, to the ongoing saga regarding the Faline Building's potential sale. I implore the mayor, the business administrator, and Council President Murphy to watch the tapes of the meetings since January of this year regarding this issue. You will see what we see: total disregard for the truth, transparency, and the taxpayer. Councilwoman Murphy and Mayor Shortway began this year with a push to sell the Faline Building. I agree with moving a township asset such as this to encourage business development and return the property to the tax rolls. I don't agree with the mayor and Ms. Murphy arbitrarily picking a value of $90,000 out of thin air without an appraisal to establish the best and highest value for the return of taxpayers' money. We did pay $420,000 for this property. Councilwoman Murphy saw fit to denigrate this asset with derogatory comments repeatedly, such as, "It's blight, it's awful, we need to tear it down, we need to sell it because we are in dire straits."
Why does the urgency to sell come to a screeching halt after 3 council persons insist on a commercial appraisal first? Maybe because Ms. Murphy made calls to select individuals, as she stated on the record, to see if there was interest, perhaps at $90,000. A move, I feel, is in complete conflict with the purpose of an open auction, which is for fair and open bidding. Council members Ohms, Wetzel, and Rizzuto are insisting on an appraisal, which I agree, before establishing a price, and rightly so. Meeting after meeting, the mayor was asked about ordering an appraisal. He first said he would push this to 2018. What happened to dire straits? Then he said he had problems with the appraiser and the appraisal. Then on March 27th, he said he ordered the appraisal about 10 days prior, when questioned by Ms. Ohms. An open request I submitted to determine the truth indicated by April 13th, no appraisal was yet ordered. At the April 24th Town Council meeting, Ms. Ohms questioned the business administrator in the mayor's absence about the status of the appraisal. I can only describe his answer as word salad. Seeing him floundering for excuses, Councilwoman Murphy saw fit to interject, "Wasn't there mold?" Quite frankly, I've never seen this kind of behavior amongst people we trust with our assets. I have seen enough unprofessionalism, spite, and incompetence between this mayor's office and Councilwoman Murphy to be frightened of all that they handle on our behalf. Business Administrator's report about $311,000 for legal fees in this year's budget forgot to mention lawsuits and desk audits are needed, and that's why the money is at $311,000. This is a 36% increase over last year. How do you explain that to the taxpayer? 36% increase legal fees in 1 year. I'm sorry if I sound angry. You bet I'm angered when my tax dollars are in the hands of those who are not honest to me or even other elected officials. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to? Please step forward.
Perhaps I can lighten the mood a little bit. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here just
Please
for
state your name.
Excuse me.
Please.
Ed DeYoung, Vernon Heights, Vernon, New Jersey. I just had an observation today that I wanted to bring to the council and to the mayor's attention. I was down at, Maple Grange Park today. I usually go down there 3 or 4 times a week to walk the trail down there. And what I've noticed in the past couple of trips down there, and especially today, that the maintenance of the grounds for the park just really seems to be way behind the usual standards that we've had down there. I was here a couple of years ago and actually complimented the Public Works Department or the Road Department, whatever they're called these days, on the job that they do down there. But what I'm seeing now is there was an event there yesterday, a 5K, and I would have expected when I went down there today to see a pretty pristine park, given the amount of people that would be down there. And instead what I saw was hundreds of thousands of dandelions, 6 to 8 inches high, all over the grass. And what I became accustomed to over the past couple of years is seeing the grounds maintained almost every time I went down there. There were people and personnel down there mowing the lawns, trimming around structures that needed hand trimming. And I just don't see that anymore. So I'm hoping that there hasn't been a cutback in those services, because I think the same people are there. They did remarkable jobs in the past, including last year. And I just don't see that this year. Now, the weather may be playing a part of this, I don't know. But I'd hate to see the asset that we have down there continue to deteriorate so that it turns into a park that nobody really wants to go to. The turf fields are great down there, and there's a lot of athletic events, but the general area surrounding there just, to me, looks like it's not being maintained. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Seeing no one else, may I have a motion to close?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor's comments?
Yes, thank you. I would like to congratulate Nancy Adam, who was selected as Vernon Township's 2017 Senior of the Year. EMS Operations Leaders Roger Kirchner from VTAS and Cheryl Swift from GPAS both stepped down this week, and we'd like to thank them for their dedicated years of service to Vernon. My administration and our professionals have engaged Suez regarding the third phase of bringing water into the town center. Future development may create a demand for water that exceeds Suez's water allocation permit. The results of the Highland study is required before we can proceed. Also, last Friday, the Joint Legislative Task Force on Drinking Water Infrastructure received my written testimony. We face a $46 million debt as a result of an overestimated and costly wastewater collection system that includes aged and failing pipes, incomplete public water service, little actual sustained growth in the town center, and rising sewer rates. An estimated additional $5 million will be required to update 2 pumping stations, 3 lift stations, and replace or repair 8,600 linear feet of a 10-inch forced main pipe. Our MUA has not created an asset management plan, and I have requested them to do so. Funds are needed for the plan, infrastructure repairs, and potable water. I request tonight the council support the ordinance for part-time workers. Part-time workers do not receive health and similar benefits. This will be an annual savings of $25,000 to $35,000. The hourly rate is less than union pay. The township will also be the recipient of additional work hours. Municipal and administrative employees' work hours, break time, and meal periods are contractual. The actual work hours performed are 6 1/2. 2 part-timers would provide 8 performance hours daily for an increase of 1.5 hours a day or 7.5 hours per week, saving the taxpayers thousands of dollars annually. This administration, with the state DCA and the Fire Marshal's office, continue to investigate the horrendous living conditions at Legends. Since the last council meeting, inspections found dozens of violations. The DCA registered 97 alone. Imminent fire hazards were abated last Friday. However, dozens of other fire violations exist. Some of the observations were as follows: scorch marks on walls near hot plates, wall partitions constructed without permits within the rooms, an umbrella embedded in the ceiling above a toilet to deflect wastewater when the toilet on the above floor was flushed, insect infestation, bunk beds built into a closet, kitchen cabinets installed blocking water sprinklers. The number of residents per room exceed the permissible square footage for the respective room, washing machines installed in bathtubs, a gas dryer illegally hooked into a natural gas pipe located in the ceiling, numerous extension cords and illegal junction boxes, mold and water damage. We will continue to investigate these matters and proceed with violations and/or charges if appropriate and if probable cause exists. These investigations and prosecutions will cost tax dollars. Legal expenses will increase as the landlord's attorneys file appeals, and one landlord continues to place children and their caregivers into these third-world living conditions. But we must stay the course. People's lives and well-being are at risk, including an estimated 14 children. Greed placed over the safety of residents cannot be tolerated. We cannot ignore this repulsive situation. To do so is to condone it. And of course, last, I will deeply appreciate adopting the budget this evening. Once the budget is passed, we can begin the process of upgrading service to our residents, better equipment and vehicles for the DPW and volunteer fire departments. Thank you.
Next, we have the minutes.
Could I just want to, excuse me, I'm sorry. While Ms. Palladini's still here and Sally, I agree. I think we should change our policy and have our ordinance on the first reading in full on the website. I don't know if anybody would like to agree with that. We discussed this parking on Facebook and the paper before our agenda was even out, and I think that's now setting a precedence. like they said, how would anybody know? So I think we should change that policy if anybody's in agreement that the first reading, the residents can see the full ordinance on the first reading. I just wanted to, if anybody has any comments on that.
Yeah, I'd like to make some comments on that, Mrs. Holmes. Heretofore, the practice had been to just publish the ordinance by name. But when you see the ordinance in its totality in a newspaper article prior to the council being presented at a meeting, and you begin to wonder why. And, is there a political purpose behind that, or is it just a mistake in judgment? I don't know, but it seems to me that you cannot be on both sides of the fence. Either you're going to do it the way we had done it, which is just present the ordinance by name only and follow that procedure, or you move to the other side of the fence, and as you requested, and I'm inclined to agree now, that you list the ordinance in its totality, including all of its text, at the first reading. Clearly, you can't be in both camps at the same time. It either bespeaks a bias, which we shouldn't have because we haven't had chance to discuss the ordinance in public. So in that regard, I can only agree with Mrs. Ohms, and I would further request that the council require the administration to do just that.
Are you, excuse me, are you suggesting that the police chief was being political?
No, I didn't.
Oh, no, you
I want
just...
I want to know who called the newspaper and gave them the total text of the ordinance before the council did.
The reporter found it on Facebook, on the Township Police Facebook, and called me and asked me, and I said to him, the ordinance had just been presented to the council that day in written form. We had not read it. End of story. So your assumptions of somebody making it political are just that, assumptions. And
Well, despite it, I think we should make it a
the
policy
question
and
is, where did the reporter get the text from? The report, excuse me, the reporter received it from the Facebook page that the police department had.
Okay, the question remains, why can't the public get it?
That's not the question that Mr. Rizzuto asked. And it's not an open forum. I'm answering Councilmember Rizzuto's question as to where it came from. This has been policy, and you've been on the council for many years,
That's right,
Mr.
it has
Rizzuto.
been policy.
And that's
But
not the question. You're making an assumption that somebody
I
did
wasn't
doing.
making an assumption.
Yes, you were.
Making that statement based
You
on
wanted to
fact.
know where the public. Actually, the police chief had taken this upon himself. He had a meeting with residents from those streets that were affected. You were there. I was there. Councilmember Ohms. We were all there. So that's not a question of whether or not the ordinance should be put out. That's just how it's been. That's how it was when you were council president. You never made any effort to change anything.
Because we were following a policy that had been continuous.
And I think we are still following that policy. It just happened to be that,
Didn't appear that way from your comments, Mrs. Murphy.
what were my comments? My comments came from the police Facebook page. My comments came from a resident who said he'd like to see Ann Place added to it because he was told that on the Facebook page of the police department, it was omitted. And he's a resident of Ann Place. As a matter of fact, I spoke to him a year ago when he said people were parking in front of his home. I agree with him. There's no disagreement here.
Neither do I. I'm in total agreement with the work that the police chief has done on this ordinance.
And that's
I think
actually.
it should be definitely supported.
But you're making an assumption that somebody gave out information to a reporter, and that's absolutely not true. It was all coming from a Facebook page, period.
Well,
Despite
no, I'm just. We should in transparency, and I always advocated that we
And I
should
agree.
post it.
I agree.
So-
But the problem lies with
So
somebody
let's leave
making
it at that.
accusations.
Can we post it, please? So
It's
Everybody
Mind
knows
your
it's
own
there.
business, Sally Rinker.
This is my business, I'm a taxpayer.
Yeah, sometimes.
So I think it would be nice going forward, so we're not caught in the same position, because then we'll go back to next week, no one knows what the first reading of an ordinance is. So
Well,
let's put it out there.
I have no problem with it.
Okay, good.
I have no problem with it.
I make a motion that now we show the public the full text of the first reading of an ordinance. How do you like that?
I'll second that.
Sticking to it.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Pardon me?
I already did.
What did you, I'm sorry.
Seconded it.
Oh, you did second it?
Oh,
Thank
Dan
you. I
already
didn't hear you. I was pounding my wrist. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, council, for your support. Thank you.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call.
Well, Sandy?
Yes?
Take it
Oh, I'm
easy.
done?
Take it easy.
Okay.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes. Is there anything else?
No, I'm done. That's it. But sorry for interrupting, but it was a good opportunity while people were requesting it to bring it up. So thank you for everybody being patient. Thank you. Okay.
Next, we have the minutes.
Carry on.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes, the regular minutes for April 10th, and the executive session minutes for April 10th, 2017? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes. Consent agenda. Consent agenda. Resolution 17-11. Resolution awarding contract for sewer connection municipal building. The township had a public bid for the connection of the municipal building to the sewer. This resolution awards the contract to Earth Tech. Resolution 17-1112, refund homestead benefit credit to totally disabled veteran. Disabled veterans are exempt from local property taxes. In this case, a homestead refund was issued for the property, but no taxes are due and owing. This resolution authorizes a refund be paid. Resolution 17-113, authorizing the Vernon Township Council to approve a person-to-person transfer of liquor license 1922-33-003-007 Great Gorge. The police have completed a background check on the Great Gorge Village golf course purchasers and have approved a person-to-person transfer for their liquor license. Resolution 17-114, authorizing alternative public defenders and prosecutors. This resolution authorizes the appointment of alternate public defenders and prosecutors should the need arise at the request of the court. May I have a motion to adopt 17-111 through 17-114?
Motion.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Wetzel and Councilmember Kadesh?
Correct.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Ooms?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes. Introduction, first reading of proposed ordinances. Ordinance 1707, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending 99-25 of the Township Code and allowing only resident permit parking on Carroll Drive, Old Glenwood Circle, Meadowlark Drive, Cove Court, Valeetstra Drive, Thistle Ave, and Ivy Place, and designating parking areas along 517. This ordinance prohibits parking on the streets surrounding the Appalachian Trail except those displaying an Appalachian Trail parking permit. These permits will be available to residents of the affected streets. This ordinance also establishes a parking zone in the area. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 1707 with a public hearing to be held May 22nd, 2017?
Move.
Second.
I have a request. Would we be able to add and place?
If I may, I spoke with the police chief earlier today regarding Ann Place. The police chief is not aware of any parking issues presently related to Ann Place. It's my recommendation that Ann Place not be added at this time. If, after the adoption of the ordinance, that traffic and safety become a concern on Ann Place, the ordinance could be amended to add Ann Place. If members of the public or the police have different information, I'm more than open to
I
hear it.
have had calls from one resident of Ann Place on more than one occasion. So it's really, it's up to the council. I mean, it's up to the council whether or not you choose to add it. I mean, I think we should add it.